I'm Cheryl Mitchell, president of Trellivan Inc., which is a retreat and learning center in the Champlain Valley of Vermont, and also one of the community mentors for NOFA, the Northeast Organic Farming Association. And I'm so glad that you're watching Faces of Farming today because we're very lucky to have Kathy Alexander here as our guest. Kathy, welcome. Thanks for coming.
You.
So Kathy is the director of the Addison Northeast Supervisory Union Nutrition and Food Services Program. And I'm wondering if you might start by just telling us a little bit about your life journey. I know you mentioned earlier you started as a lunch lady, but you also grew up in the city.
Yeah. So I came to Vermont many years ago from New Jersey, and honestly I came because I saw a cow on the brochure of the University of Vermont catalog and thought, this is as far away from New York as I'm ever going to get, New York and New Jersey. So I think I'll go there. So I ended up in Vermont that way. And I didn't start my career in the food business. I've had a lot of things that I've done, but interestingly, they've all been about families and supporting families. So I was a special ed teacher for years. I was a doula for many years. And worked as a childbirth educator and doula and midwife assistant for many years. And my interest has always been in supporting families in whatever way I could do that. And as I had a growing family, it became harder and harder to be away from them in certain jobs. So I heard that there was someone who was needed at the school to cook lunch for kids. And this was 15 years ago in Ferrisburg, Vermont. And I thought that is the perfect job. Nourishing kids, supporting families in that way. I can do that. I have 3 children. So that's how it started for me. And honestly, I've had a lot of jobs, and this has been the best.
Really? Even better than being a doula?
In some ways, yeah. I mean, in some ways, I feel like it's been a way to contribute to the life of the community in a broader way for me, as well as to individual families and kids, and to make an impact in just a broad way. And certainly moving from my job in Ferrisburg, where I was able to manage the program and cook every day for about 200 kids, to now being in Addison Northeast, which has been a wonderful transition for me, and I'm honored to be there working in 6 schools with a staff of 16 people who are incredibly committed to the work that they do every day, and it's about nourishing kids again, but and doing it as part of a community effort. So
let's go back to your work in Ferrisburg, because it must be because of you that Ferrisburg was one of the first schools on the map about really healthy eating, kids being involved. Really did, and can you tell us more about it?
Sure. It's not just because of me, but I was there and was, I helped champion that effort to really to make sure that the food that was served as the daily offering, both breakfast and lunch in school, was part of education and was just as good as the education kids are getting, and not only just as good, but very much an important facet of student education. So in order to do that, and when you think about that program and that food in that way, it raises the bar, right? So suddenly it becomes more important that the food, that you know where the food comes from, and that it's the highest quality food, and that you can really teach kids about food through those meals. And then that turns into, well, what about helping kids grow food? And how about, making sure that all the squash comes from right here on campus, and having them see that process of planting food and harvesting food, and then turning it into products that they eat or products that they share within their community. So it was an effort that I felt very committed to, and was partnered with some amazing teachers and administrators at that school who all wanted to enrich kids' education in that way. So it was about, we spent 10 years working on that, and I think we changed the culture. I really do in Ferrisburg, and that felt really good.
And has it continued since you left?
Yeah, for sure. There's certainly the food service program, who was eventually taken over by a woman that worked with me in the kitchen for those 10 years. Her name is Patty Barnes. She's now managing the program and has continued those efforts in full force. She also works with another woman who's a well-known chef in our community. She also has a catering business and does an amazing job. And the teachers there remain committed to supporting those efforts by doing a wonderful and I think sort of exemplary composting program and a huge gardening program. And again, I think they do it not without a lot of work and commitment, but now it's the fabric of that community and that school. And it's been very well integrated into curriculum. But it takes a long time. It's a lot of work, and so it happened there.
If a school was just starting, would it still be 10 years, or have there been enough materials developed at this point?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it depends. I think it's good not to have expectations, because when you're talking about changing cultures, there could be stops and starts. You get going, but you get going in a direction that maybe isn't working for everybody or doesn't quite fit the current culture. And so you have to sort of re-look at things. We see that in the 6 schools that I'm working in now. I think to a different extent, each school is at a place where they're really trying to change the culture around food as well. And every school has a personality, and so every school has to sort of find their own way. I think in my opinion, there's no formula really. There's tools, there's best practice that you can just be aware of, but I don't think there's a magic formula or a magic template. I think each school has to grapple with how to make this real for their students in their own way, and that just sometimes naturally takes time.
So you moved over to the Addison Northeast.
Yes. Yeah.
Doing something different, though. Is that right? You created a co-op buying situation?
We did.
Can you tell us about it?
Well, at the time, that school district, the 6 schools, a supervisory union
so
is
that's
the proper
Lincoln,
term.
Moncton, Bristol, New Haven,
Yep.
Starksboro.
And Starksboro, yeah. Did you say Lincoln too?
Yeah.
Lincoln, yeah. Yep. 5 towns, 6 schools. Yeah. And the idea at the time was to try to sort of unify those schools around food and nutrition by having one person who helped coordinate that effort for all of them. And I think there was some interest in making having a financial benefit to that cooperative or that collaborative effort, in addition to really just the unification of an idea that we're going to serve our kids really good food in all of our schools, so that it was sort of across the board we can have the same expectations about the way we think about nourishing kids in school. So they were interested in experimenting with that, and it was an experiment because it's not very common in Vermont, although now it's much more common. But at the time, most schools in Vermont have their own have their own manager, and the school is sort of insulated in their food service. Right. And there's only a few at the time. There were only a few districts that were overseen by a director and sort of had something that looked like what we were trying to do. But even then, we were trying to do something a little different because we really focused on having a set of values that guided the work, and a lot of really good training for our staff and all of that kind of thing. So it was a little bit of an experiment, and I was eager to support that effort and felt like I had the experience to do that, and I was ready to do something bigger. So I was, it's an honor to be part of it. Yeah.
Can you talk about the values that are sort of guiding that
Sure.
work?
Yeah, I feel like, and I'm speaking, I think, for my entire staff of 16 really committed people who've been doing this for a long time. I think our primary value is that we are there as part of the educational process. So again,
So it's not like you're coming in on the side and just delivering
it's
food.
It's not a sideline.
Yeah.
It's nourishing kids is a way to support their education. We know that we have research that proves that when kids are well nourished, they learn better. And so our programs come at what we do, and we approach the work every day with that knowledge that if we do a good job, meaning our standards are high and we serve really good food, that we can nourish kids well enough and to sustain them throughout the day, help them be alert, and help ensure that what teachers are teaching every day is going to get through. Mm-hmm. So that's our commitment to food and nutrition. And then we feel like we also can have an impact on our community by teaching kids about food, teaching kids what good food is really all about, teaching kids about how they might come to find out about food in their lives and their families, and some of the benefits of knowing where your food comes from, and then taking it to the next step. And we try to purchase food locally as much as possible. Mm-hmm. And every year we renew our commitment to that in different ways. But it's really all about helping kids understand the importance of their own self-care, and that food and nutrition is
So does
first.
Your nutrition staff go into the classroom and do that teaching?
Sometimes.
Do the kids come into your kitchens?
It varies. Well, we have one person on staff who actually was she was the director, the manager at the Lincoln School. So she was there for 8 years, did an amazing job, bought a lot of local product, and had a great program. And she just last year was her first year where she left that position, which was a big deal for everybody. And she is now working with all the schools as our food and nutrition coordinator, education coordinator. So it's because I'm the director, so I have to sort of handle things that are not that much fun.
You get to do the bureaucratic stuff.
Yeah, that's what I get to do a lot. So it's really important for me that we have somebody in that position who can be in classrooms and or can support the managers who are right in the kitchens to be the ones to go in the classroom. So
each school still has its own.
Each school has a manager.
It's not like you're making all the food in
No.
Bristol and shipping it out.
We have one situation where we do satellite. We satellite to the Beeman School. It has a lot to do with the setup and the size of the school and some of the logistics of staffing and trying to be fiscally responsible. In all of this, that's kind of one of the things that obviously we have to think about. So we do satellite there, but I think we do a really good job, and we do have a staff person who's there for a big part of the day and has really, come to adore the students there. So she's a part of the school, even though the meal isn't getting cooked there. It's cooked 8 minutes away and delivered in 8 minutes, and I think it works really well. Mm-hmm. But every school does have staff that's there, and every school except for Beeman, we're cooking the food there. So it's at least 2 staff in every school, and then at Bristol there's 2.5, and then at the high school obviously there's a lot more. And so those people. Those staff also really enjoy working with students. So sometimes our food and nutrition educator, Laura, will go and work in the kitchen so that the manager or one of the staff can go out and do a cooking class for kids in a particular classroom. So we try to make sure that's part of what we can offer to the schools. Every year I think we do a little better with that, but it's definitely one of our goals to engage kids in food and cooking. And
are you doing Junior Iron Chef?
Yeah, we
like
do
that?
Junior Iron Chef at the high school.
Could you describe that for people that aren't familiar with it?
Yeah, it's so amazing. Junior Iron Chef is an opportunity for kids in middle and high school. So middle school in this case is considered 6th grade. So we have, not this year, but last year we did have a team at Lincoln that was 6th graders. But it's middle and high school students can form teams of up to 5 students, and they come together and come up with recipes that they think are would be great to serve to other kids in their schools. So it's a way of exploring new food and new dishes that students might like. But also the emphasis is on fresh and whole foods and local foods as much as they can come up with in March when the competition happens. So
Wow.
yeah,
It's not too much
Yeah.
around, is there? What's
well,
around?
we're very creative. I mean, eggs, and we can't use meat.
Right.
It's all vegetarian, but eggs and cheese, and then there are definitely things that are growing, either tomatoes or growing hydroponically.
Yeah.
So we can define local somewhat broadly within the competition, and there's greens that people are growing as well. So you in the competition now, the way it's set up is you can either really emphasize local or you don't have to, but in general the idea is to get kids engaged in cooking and using really fresh whole foods that then they may not be familiar with, and experiencing that, and then they come up with a recipe and they practice it for about 8 weeks until they nail it, and then they go to competition with 75 to 100 other teams.
Incredible.
And they're given an hour and a half, and they have to produce their recipe. And it's very inspiring and fun, and we've had a team for 5 years, and 1 year we had 2 teams, or actually 1 year we had 3 teams, so
Wow.
it's great.
Yeah.
It's a good program.
So are you big enough to actually have leverage on buying or helping local farms to raise the kind of food that you're needing for the
Yeah.
schools? How?
That's a really good question. We, when it comes to local food, I'm not sure for me at the level that we're at. It's about leveraging as much as it's about working as in partnership
As partners.
with our local farmers. Because of the volume is still not big enough to really, make, not that it doesn't make a difference to the farmers, and our volume isn't nothing, but again, it's just not about leveraging at that level. I think it's more about finding ways to get the kids, get fresh local food to kids.
So how do you
certainly
choose
our
which
farmers,
farms you're going to partner with?
well, that's another really good question. We set up buying contracts with our farmers that have actually in the past been somewhat loose, although now we're faced with some USDA regulations that are forcing us to make those contracts a little bit more strict. Not strict, but we have to be a little more intentional about them, I guess. And and honestly, we've never had to do that. We've never really had to adhere to this federal law around buying contracts, or we didn't in Vermont. We probably should have been, but never did. And by we, I mean everyone. So in the next 2 years, there's going to be some changes with regard to how we do business with farmers. But we're finding that our state agency is giving us a lot of support around how to do that without, we're certainly not throwing up our hands and saying this is too much work. But there's a learning curve, and we've got some help and support and grace period around it. But we do set up, buying agreements with our farmers, and it depends on what they can provide us for certain specifications that we need for schools. We have size specifications and things that we need for.
Do they have to sort of pre-process things for you to purchase them?
We have purchased processed food, but we don't have any farmers in Addison County that are doing any processing for us. I mean, we like our lettuce to be triple washed when we can get it, because we honestly don't have the staffing to really, really wash lettuce. So if that's processing, then yeah, we ask for that. We cook all our potatoes with the skins on, so we're looking for potatoes that are clean when they come in. So there's definitely specs like that we'll talk to our farmers about. But for the most part, we've had really good luck. So and
do
some
your
of it's
farmers
give and
come
take. Some of
into
it's
the
I've got to
schools to do some of the teaching?
Sometimes, we haven't done as much of that as I'd really like to do. Actually, especially in the last couple of years, we just it just hasn't happened. I mean, they're there and they're delivering, but I think our farm to school programs or our efforts in different schools are getting more intentional, and that's going to be part of it. There are a number of schools, though, that do have the farmer writing program, the Pen Pal program, which is amazing. And so in those situations where the classroom has a relationship with a farmer, certainly that's been a great benefit. But we'd like to be more intentional about that in the next few years. I think we'll move in that direction. But for now, it's farmers will call me and say, we have a surplus of something. We know you can use it in this quantity. Can you fit it into your menu? But we also try to plan our menus so that it has product that's seasonal, and that we can, that we know we can get locally. So.
And you don't just work during the school year, right? You run a whole summer program too. I'm wondering if you can talk about that.
Absolutely. We have the opportunity through our federal child nutrition programs to do free meals for any child under the 18 and under, so 18 years of age and under. And that opportunity happens when a school in a particular town has eligibility rates above 50% for students who qualify for free and reduced meals. So if that's the situation during the school year, if it's above 50%, then in the town during the summer, anywhere where kids congregate, we can serve free meals.
Wow.
All summer long. So we're doing that in Bristol and Starksboro. And then we've reached out to other communities who needed help, and we have a big program. So we're doing about 300 to 350 meals a day now. Last week was about 400. Kind of slowed down a little bit this week, but yeah, we're getting them out. We work in, I have 4
the
staff.
Logistics of that, I mean, you said you had 11 sites just in
we
Bristol?
We do. We have a lot of sites. The logistics are tricky. It looks crazy, but honestly, it's pretty inspiring when you come into our kitchen. There's 4 staff, and they've been doing this for 4 years, and they're really, really good at it, and they're efficient, and the food is really, really good, and they get it prepared. We actually use little TV dinner trays now because we're on a little time crunch, and we want to make sure every kid gets all the meal components, so that really helps. So we use these recyclable TV trays, and everything gets packed and out the door in coolers, and my staff delivers maybe half the meals, and then we have a volunteer who helps us with a site that we actually have in Shoreham 2 days a week. So we have these wonderful volunteers who help make that happen. I go to Lincoln every day, and then we have 2 more. We partner with the Mary Johnson Center, and we have a whole program at the mobile home parks in Starksboro, and they have a couple of Middlebury students who are working with them for the summer, so they come and pick up meals and also add on the Robinson School. So it's a truly collaborative effort, which makes it really great, because it's really all about everyone in our community not being hungry, because that's just not okay. And I think this is a great example of people pulling together, working, volunteering, and garnering resources to make sure that kids are fed, period, end of story.
So what are your dreams? It sounds like you're expanding constantly.
Yeah.
What are your plans, dreams for the future? You talked about supporting families as well as kids. Is that
right? So my dream for the future, the big dream, is that we live in a country, or at least in a state, that all meals are free for kids in school. That when you go to school, the expectation is that you have breakfast and lunch, and that the school provides a wonderful, healthy, whole food meal for you every day. So that is what I have my sights on.
Okay.
And I'm concerned about that in Vermont. Well, in our little district of our 6 schools, and in Vermont, I'm concerned about it, and I'm also concerned about that on a national level too. So I have connections nationally and work on things at that level too, through the School Nutrition Association and other associations that I work with, doing some training for people in child nutrition. But that's really the goal for me, is to see if by the time I retire, that we are not begging for money, and we're just making sure kids are fed in school, because it should be something that's expected, and it's the right thing to do.
So are there things that you wanted to talk about that I forgot to ask?
Oh dear. Oh, I don't think so. You're so good.
Okay.
You wove in lots of
you are
great
so
questions.
on target about what you care about. It
Yeah.
makes it easy.
Wow.
I'm wondering if you're up for people getting in touch with you,
Yeah,
if there are other
sure.
communities that want to do something similar.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I'd be happy to talk to anyone who's interested in chatting about summer programs, about farm to school, and I can put you in touch with. We have, there's people on the ground in our schools doing some really wonderful work. With farm to school, so I can kind of make connections too. So if anyone wants to call me, they don't just have to talk to me. We can make connections with other people that are doing great work.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. Well, it's very exciting to talk to you in
Thank
person.
you.
I've just
It's so
heard
fun.
so much about your
Thank
work
you.
over the years, Kathy.
Thank you. Well,
Thanks.
I'm honored to be here and to be doing the work I'm doing, and it's important and fun, and thank
Great.
you.
And I hope your dream comes true
Thank you.
soon.
Me too. Yeah.
And thank you all for watching the show today. We'd also like to thank Middlebury Community Television. If you have a nonprofit or you have a public interest project that you would like the community to know about, they are wonderful people to help you get the word out. So give them a call. You'll see their contact information later. And you'll also see Kathy's contact information if you're watching and you really want to do something like this in your community.
Yeah.
Thanks.